Hello, and welcome to Exchanging Eternal Truths, brought to you by Expanding Your Faith Ministries in Anderson, South Carolina. I'm your host, author Heather Lancaster, and I'm happy to be joined today by Pastor Sean Hutson of Exalt Church in Bradenton, Florida. He's also with Courtyard Media, which includes Circle Christian Arts Academy. And today we're going to talk about redeeming the arts. So, Pastor Sean, thanks for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the church, the school, the media company. How is God using that in this area?
All right, so I'll tell you about us, and then I'll tell you how I think and I hope that God is using us. The school was actually founded before the church, and I won't give the whole detail because we don't have that much time. But basically, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law as well, but through a prophetic vision that she had in the '70s, which was very graphic, actually, and some of the things that were shown to her in the '70s didn't even really exist yet regarding just different things with our culture. What's happening in our culture now that we see with a lot of the LGBTQ and the transgender ideology and different things like that. Not quite that specific, but those types of just wild things that when she got this vision didn't even really make sense to her. But in that vision, they were trying to rescue children, basically, from the kind of the wolves of culture. Wolves, these satanic forces used through the culture to capture the children and really devour them. So through that, over the course of many decades, they had done different things with arts. Courtyard Media Ministries was founded, where they used to travel. My father-in-law wrote albums. He was a concert pianist, a vocalist, and he sang. He also preached. So he would travel and preach and play music and do concerts. And then he wrote a book. It was in 2008 when we started Circle. It was sort of among many things, but this would not be the only. But one of the things that was sort of a big catalyst was that was already on their heart to do a training center for the arts for children. Somebody that they knew, their daughter was cast in a musical at a different, like a public school here in town. And what they wanted her to do was very ungodly. I won't go into detail, but it was that what they wanted her to do just really was bad. They should never ask children, really anybody, but especially children, to do some of these things. So through that, they said, I think it's time to start this school, because there's a need to rescue children from what's happening in the arts community. We often say that art drives culture. People don't always realize, but even if you watch something like the Super Bowl, there's art all throughout that. I mean, from the team logos to all that's happening on the screen, all of the cinematography, all of everything. Then the commercials you watch, there's art in that. There's cinematography, there's acting, there's storytelling. Art really does drive culture in a lot of ways that are both passive and active. Well, anyways, they felt the need to start that in 2008 and really officially begin this school. So Circle Christian Arts Academy started in 2008, and it was at the beginning was renting spaces from churches and stuff, and it started very small, like anything would. 2012, we started our church, Exalt Church, and that was, again, my mother-in-law and father-in-law and their daughter, my wife. We all started it together in 2012. And so for the first 8 years, once we started, we got a little warehouse building. And so the school no longer had to rent from church space. We moved in together, kind of the school and the church all together in one warehouse. Did that for 8 years. Found the building that we are at now. We were able to purchase a building in the end of 2019 and move in at the end of 2020. We spent all 2020 basically renovating it. And we moved in 2020, and we've been in this building ever since. In 2021, my father-in-law, he ended up getting COVID and getting sick. And from that, he did go home to be with the Lord in April of 2021. And that's how I became the lead pastor of the church and the president of Courtyard Media Ministries. And my mother-in-law is, I mean, she's, in many regards, she's my right-hand man, a woman, I guess you could say. And she's also the creative director. She's the founder. So I get to lead And I don't even know if she'll ever hear this, but I'll say this: she's one of the most gracious people in the world, only because when you're the founder of a ministry, when you've lost your husband, when your son-in-law takes it over, I mean, all this stuff. She has many rights that she lays down willfully and says, she defers to me many times and says, "What do you want to do, Pastor?" And which is incredibly gracious of her. So that brings us to where we are now. We've been doing the school since 2008. It's grown. I think this year we're around 100 students, give or take one or two in either direction.
Mm-hmm.
It had gotten up prior to COVID up to about 120, I think 125. But with COVID, a lot of things changed, and but it's been slowly. The school's been growing, and been able to reach a lot of kids, and a lot of our graduates have gone on to do other things in art, and others have gone on to do things more professional. Not that art's not, but we have one who's a surgeon, one who's a police officer. So and then some of our students have come back to teach at the school. So, and we have one who's a missionary. So we've seen where the training here has really been able to equip young people to kind of go out into whatever field the Lord calls them to. And whether it's art or not, they are hopefully receiving training here that helps them and benefits them to be world changers for Christ.
Now, is it a full school or is it just like an after school kind of
Yeah, not full
supplemental kind of
school.
thing?
It's not out of the visionary framework. It could one day, but no. Right now, it's we classes usually begin for us around 3 p.m. and then go till 8 or 8:30 at night.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's probably something I would have been involved in if such a thing had been around where I was going to school in Maryland, because that acting, voiceovers, plays, musicals,
yeah,
all that stuff was stuff that I was involved in at school from the
that's
time I was
wonderful.
like 4.
Yeah, yeah, and that's our classes begin at 3, and three age, and they go up to 18. And yeah, that's what we have. We have dance. So in the dance department, we've got ballet, jazz, contemporary, and tap. I think we had hip hop, and I think we're bringing that back this next year. We've got a musical theater department. We've got a songwriting class and song production class. We've got various different trainings in guitar, bass, drums, vocal, things like that. And then we have ceramics, and we have had photography. We might bring that back. We've had art, a lot of different art disciplines.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because that was always, like my thing growing up. I did the acting thing. I played guitar. I,
Okay.
did a lot of course, and then I started writing. That was really writing, and all of that became really where I focused. And in fact, I really started writing almost before. I mean, I've been involved in ministry for 20-25 years, but writing, as far as like writing to write, I always wrote stuff from the time I was like 10-12 years old.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
started writing what they would call fan fiction and cutting
yeah.
my teeth on that. And then the Lord was like, "Okay, I want you to write this." And he's like, "I want you to write this devotional." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the first one came out in 2022, and the fifth one came out last year, and I'm working on 6 and 7 now. So, however God's going to use
That's
that is
really
how it
cool.
how it gets used. So,
Yeah.
so that's always been a passion of mine. But to have it guided
Yeah.
in a way that is biblical, in a way that encourages spiritual growth.
Yes.
I remember when I quit my corporate job, I quit to do voiceover work because I
Hmm.
was doing some minor voiceover work here and there, and I'm like, I need to make a go of this full time. And I really thought that was what I was going to wind up doing, because I'd been acting since, like I said, doing stage plays starting when I was 4. And I thought that was really gonna kick up when I could do it full time and not just an hour here, an hour there. I really thought that was gonna take off, and then it dried up. Nothing.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
soon as I'd quit my job and all of that, and I'm like, "Lord, I know you told me that it was time to leave that job, so what's the deal?" And then that's when the writing started again.
Okay.
And really the books started coming, and then the
Yeah.
podcast, and then all of these other things. So it's like, okay, you just want me to focus on doing your work. I get it now.
And to that, I will say that's really what the hope and the vision and the dream of Circle is because we don't always know what's in store down the road. We're aware that not every student who comes through here is going to do art for the rest of their life. We hope for two things, but both are centered in the same one thing. And those two things are number one is if they do get that opportunity to go pursue a career in dance or acting or any other kind of art, or, that they do it with a proper rooted Christian biblical foundation so that in that industry, which, as we all know, is really has been hijacked by liberal thinking and just there's like a humanistic mentality. They can go into that as leaders.
Right.
They can go in there and change that culture. But then the other is that okay, so they may not everyone's going to. So then they may take a ballet class here, never go on to be a professional ballet dancer, but the discipline, the hard work ethic, the time management, all of that stuff. But then again, with a Christ centered ethos, they can take that into the work environment as they get older. And then that is so both of those are rooted in it's really about Jesus.
Yeah.
And so everything that we teach, the hope and the goal, the mission is that they're getting something that when they are 30, 40 years old, they're leading from a place of biblical understanding that they are really just Christ's servants,
Hmm.
whether it's in art or not. He is the one that we're supposed to be pleasing and seeking his will in everything that we do. So yeah, that's sort of the goal and the mission. You mentioned redeeming the arts. I think it's Ephesians 5:16 that says to walk wisely and redeem the time because the days are evil. And so oftentimes we talk about that with this is we are redeeming the arts
Yeah.
because kids want to dance. Like little, we get girls in here that they love it. They're
Right.
3, 4, 5 years old and they have these dreams and they love dancing. Well, wouldn't it be great to have a place where your little girl can come dance and she's not being exposed to God only knows what in the
Right.
music and being asked to wear, dear Lord, some of the things that we've seen is just atrocious. So
Right.
we're really seeking to preserve innocence for
Yeah.
these young ones who have an artistic bent and letting them experience the arts in a truly God glorifying way.
And it in a safe space.
Yes.
There's so very few where as believers we can say, okay, I can send my kids here and know they're going to be safe.
Yes.
And that's, I hate to say that it's rare, but it has become rare.
Oh,
Certainly
sure.
in certain areas. And like we talked about a little before we started recording, that area, that Bradenton, Sarasota area, is full of artistic people. Our longtime listeners will know we had David and Vicki Elliott from Live Scent who
Hmm.
talk about what the arts are like there, and
Hmm.
some of the things, some of the stories they told me that did not make the episode is quite fascinating. But yeah, I think it's so important to have that. And you know, with, I guess with that and school primarily, does the church then, so if you're doing a performance and doing training, does is it then incorporated into the service, the church service, or is it special events, or how does the fruit of what they're learning manifest through the other parts of the ministry?
That's a good question, actually. So, one thing, before we started, I kind of gave you that quick little, let you look around here on the camera. We have a single building that is a 7,500 square foot church building, and which 7,500 square feet for a church really isn't huge. But then when you combine that with a school, it is tight, very tight. And so the way the two ministries work together, I will say this is with a lot of grace. We have people who attend the church and teach at the school. We have people who attend other churches and teach at the school. We have volunteers from our church who help out a lot with the set building and costumes and prep work, and then behind the scenes things like that. And so there's a lot. Oh man, there's a lot of blending and melding of the two ministries that goes on. Our youth pastor will come in on a Wednesday night to get ready for youth group and have props and sets and stuff everywhere that he has to sometimes help move to get ready so we can have youth group. I mean, things like that a lot. And then the two ministries have a lot of blend. And when it comes to like the Sunday morning service, truthfully, we've lamented recently that we don't see as much representation of circle in our church services as we'd like to. We have some. I mean, this past Sunday, our entire youth band led worship entirely by the youth. And I think if I kind of run my mind through it, everybody on the stage is a student of circle, and they either take vocal classes, guitar lessons, piano lessons, acting lessons. And so in some regard, it goes back to that blending, is where almost seamlessly circle and exalt kind of just work together. And we have had dances on Sunday mornings. We've had other representations of circle's ministry in the church on Sundays. But then, yeah, the two work together a lot with behind the scenes. Like I said, most of our volunteers for circle come from Exalt. Not all, but a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of that kind of blending. And yeah, Sunday mornings, this year we're doing Lion King
Okay.
is our musical, Lion King Jr. for circle.
Uh-huh.
Well, we've already discussed that the last probably 2 or 3 weeks before the musical, we've got to set up. If you're familiar with that, Pride Rock, it's huge.
It is massive.
And that we've been setting it up and tearing it down for our rehearsals. Well, once we set it up the last 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to set it up and leave it up. And so Pride Rock will be on the stage during church.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of that stuff that we do. And we have a really gracious church body that just loves the fact that the kids are so involved and that there's all this going on. So,
Oh, absolutely. And I used to be the head of a drama ministry for a church. And so we would have, the Easter plays, the Christmas plays, that sort of thing that
oh,
went
yeah.
along with it too. And, growing up, we always had like the Christmas musicals and things like that. So that's
Oh,
kind of,
yeah.
I think, what I had in my mind too. But yeah, I mean, even doing something bigger than that.
It is neat. Our kids pastor, he also works with Circle, helping with the kids, and him and his wife. And so it's just there's a lot of crossover where people are involved in many different ways through both, and a lot of people join Exalt through coming to Circle and finding out, oh, there's a church here. And
Right.
then vice versa, we've had people come to Exalt and go, you have a school for kids teaching art and dance. And so we see a lot of that as well, where the two ministries kind of feed each other, I guess you could say. And it's a fun thing. So.
Yeah. What else does you mentioned at the beginning? It all started with your father-in-law and Courtyard Media. Does Courtyard Media go beyond also the church and the school?
There are things I believe coming. And I'm phrasing it that way intentionally because nothing has been set in stone. For example, one thing that I guess I could say this, one thing that we are currently working on is we have a songwriting class as part of Circle. They start out the year with nothing and they write a song. They write the lyrics, the melody, they record all the music. They learn how to write, record, and produce a full song. And then we try to make a music video out of it as well. And this will be the second year of that class. And so the idea has come up of starting Circle Music, a music label. And we already have one artist. I'll give a little spotlight. If anybody wants to check out Abba Kid, Abbakid, Abba Kid, he is actually the teacher of that class, the songwriting class. And we've got his music on being put out. And then the student music is going to be put out on Circle Music. And so there is the very fledgling beginning stages of, a music label there. And then there's some other things we've always dreamed of courtyard also having a publishing wing. As I said, my father-in-law wrote a book. We've had other dreams and aspirations of being able to do written publishing and things of that nature. So, and we've got a few artists in our circle. I mean, sorry, writers in our circle. So there's something with that that's definitely being considered
Brewing.
as well. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I love, and it goes back to what you said at the very beginning. It was about that prophetic vision.
Hmm.
And we talked a little offline, about like schedules and things like that, but always go back to the two scriptures that jump out to me about vision. Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain.
Make it plain. Amen.
And then there's another one, and I'm trying to remember the reference point, but it says, without vision, the people perish.
Will perish. Yeah.
And
No, I can't remember either.
I think it's in Psalms, but
Yeah, yeah,
or Psalms or Proverbs, but I can't remember. And some translation translates that to without restraint, the people
yeah.
go wild.
Yes,
Um,
yes. We've used that in our training here a lot, actually, to and reinforce discipline
yeah.
and the need for lining up with the vision so that we can do things properly with excellence for the Lord. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. They both jump out to me because, like you were saying, this really started with a vision.
Mm,
And as we keep increasing our vision, that's why our ministry is expanding your faith.
mhm.
Because it's always about growing, it's always about learning, it's always about what is the next thing that God has for us.
Yeah.
And I think for you guys, that's really, you're writing the vision for the next stage.
Hmm. Yeah.
And okay, Lord, where are we going? And as he opens these doors, you guys are going to be able to walk through and use the excellence and the discipline and all of the things
Yeah.
that you've learned through these processes that you're imparting to the next generation. You're going to
Yeah.
be then being able to take that into the next phases of these, into the next arms, into the music, into the publishing, into all of these areas, because it's like we said at the very beginning, it's about God getting the glory for what he's doing
That's right.
and giving these kids and the people at the church, giving them this beautiful biblical foundation
Hmm.
for how to live their lives, how to do things with excellence, how to do things that aren't always taught. Time
Mm.
management, discipline, all
Yeah.
of these things are not always cultivated these days.
Mm.
And even in adults, sometimes we lose focus and we forget how to just get back to structure, get back to
Yeah.
basics, get back
Yeah.
to make the important thing the thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you will. And I think that goes a long way towards what you guys are doing, especially in the school.
Yeah. And like you said with that vision, I mean, oftentimes our meetings or conversations, we oftentimes go back to the vision and go, okay, well, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
This making this decision. Are we going to do this? Does this line up with the vision of helping rescue children and preserving their innocence while training them to be leaders for their generation? And that's been the guiding focus of every decision we make is going back to that original vision of redeeming the arts, training children in a Christ-centered way so that they can go out and be leaders in the culture.
Yeah, and I just think that's awesome. So, Pastor Sean, as we're wrapping up for today, are there any final thoughts you have about what God's doing, how He's doing it, or what's happening there in Bradenton?
I have tons of thoughts. How much time do you have? No, yeah, I mean, I really believe, I mean, we've seen all these revivals around the nation. There's been so many different things, little outpourings here and there. We've often said, I do not believe we will see the identical same type of outpouring that we've seen in the past, Azusa Street and the Jesus movement in the 70s. But I do think that we're on the cusp of something very big where the Lord has been readying his people for a very long time. I think there's been a lot of ground tilled, a lot of seed sown. I think a lot of people in the culture are growing discontent with what they have thought was truth. what they have run to looking for meaning and purpose and satisfaction and joy and peace. And I think that the Lord's his what Jesus said to his disciples, he said, "Look up, because the harvest field is ripe and ready for the harvest." I mean, it is just so ready right now. And at least, and I don't think this is exclusive to the arts arena. I think this is in virtually every arena, but in our little world of arts, and especially here, and like I say, like, yeah, everything from Tampa down to probably Fort Myers. There's so many different little art things along the west coast of Florida. I really do think that the Lord has a vision for this region that is specific to this region. I don't
Mhm.
think it's the same for maybe Anderson, South Carolina, or Wyoming or something. But at least for our region, I think God really has something He wants to do because of the unique nature of the artistic community here. We are very excited for the positioning that He has brought us for where we are, such a time as this, like Esther, that the fact that we're placed here where we are, the time that we are, the vision was given when it was, but wasn't able to come to this type of fruition until it was. I mean, there you can just see the orchestration that God's been working, and so now we're kind of going, Lord, we want to be as ready as we can be for whatever it is you want to do, and so that's kind of. I think that that's something we should all apply in our own walks of life. Is we don't know exactly what or when or how, but if we're just ready for, our spirits are ready for the Holy Spirit to do whatever He wants to do, and just be ready, and then don't hesitate. Strike when the iron's hot. When he leads you to an opportunity, share His word, show His love, be His grace, whatever. And so that's kind of, I guess, my final thought.
There we go. All right. Very good. And it's true, regardless of where we find ourselves, whether we're in the arts, whether we're in the marketplace, whether we're walking through the grocery store, and we've said this on other episodes before, and this goes for every one of us. We are Christ's ambassadors.
That's right.
What does an ambassador do? We're called to be salt. We are called to be light.
Yep.
We are called to be something different than what the world is.
That's right.
Because people are looking for, like you said, people are looking for truth. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
That's right.
And when we can focus everything on Him and point everything to Him, then you know you're on the right path.
Amen. Yeah.
So, Pastor Sean, thanks so much for being with me today. Let the folks know where they can find you and Exalt Church and Circle Christian Arts Academy and all that information.
Sure. Our church website is exaltchurch.org. That's EXALT church.org. And then the website for Circle Christian Arts Academy is explorecircle.com. Explorecircle.com. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out, we have reels and different things for that. We have more coming, Lord willing. I just spoke with somebody the other day on our team about trying to produce more reels and content and things like that. So, yeah, there you go. We'd
All
love
right.
anybody to, if you're in the Florida, Bradenton area, look us up and come check out a show.
Awesome. So I will include the church and the school's website in the description for folks. And I know on the website there's links to all that other stuff. And then
Yeah.
we'll also put the links on our website. So again, thank you so much for being with me today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and we'll talk real soon.
Absolutely. Well, you've been listening to Exchanging Eternal Truths. And if you would like to partner with us in the creation of this positive, encouraging biblical content, you can check out our website. It's expandingyourfaith.org. As always, we ask that you like, share. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them for me and we can get those back to Pastor Sean and get some answers for you. So until next week, be blessed, my friends.